Well, hello and welcome to Faith, Philosophy and Life with me, Mr. Shelton. It's great to see you again. I do hope that you are doing well. We are doing our origins and meaning unit at the moment. So we're thinking about where the world comes from and what the point of life is. And last time we looked at Imago Dei. We looked at being made in God's image and what difference should that make to a human. And we thought God's image was like we have the same qualities of God. So God has the ability to love, so we have the ability to love, and God has the ability to be good, so we also do as well. Behind me then is a few different activities. I would like you to look at those activities and to rank them into order. So what do you think is the most severe issue? What's the best issue, if you will? So is it you're attacked by a Morgul with a knife, you kill him in self-defense for your own life? Is that acceptable? You're a doctor, a terminally patient who's in a lot of pain asks you to end their life. Is that acceptable? So I wanted to go through those and identify which ones do you think are most acceptable or not, and why. Just have a think about that. You don't need to write anything down, but you can do if you want to. Okay, great. I wonder what you put at the top there. All of your work, as usual, please send through to us in school because we would love to have a look at those. Go and grab your pen and paper because here's our cheesy intro music. Okay, so our title today is Why is Life Important? Why is life important? And our learning objective to understand what Christians believe about the origins of and the sanctity of life. So we're going to transform and reduce information into smaller chunks. That's part of what we're doing today. It's going to be good if we can state what the origin of and sanctity of life is. It's going to be great if we can explain what Christians believe about the origin and the sanctity of life. And it's going to be even better if we can explain different beliefs about life and death and apply those to an exam style question as well. We're going to look at some definitions. We've got some information gathering, got some exam questions to do, and then a last question of who would you save? So to start off with then, here are 4 pictures. What's the word? Pause me now while you have a think about that. Okay, yep, the answer is definitely life. Okay, so that's the answer. There's 4 gaps at the bottom there. These are all pictures to do with life, because ultimately that's what we're thinking of today. So I'm going to come up with a definition of origins of life. Now, I'd like you to use at least 2 of these words or phrases in this box. So in your books, can you write down now what you think the word origins of life means, using at least 2 of those words there? Pause me now and then come back to me when you're done. Okay, so this is the definition that I've got here. It's the origin of life is the idea for where all life comes from. Scientists and theologians have been trying to explain the origins of life for thousands of years. If your answer is roughly around the bit in the black, that is brilliant. If it's not, then maybe the bit in the black needs to re-guide your thinking. Let's look at another definition. Sanctity of life. Same rules apply. I'd like you to use at least 2 of these words. So now define the term sanctity of life. Pause me and then come back to me. Okay, so we've got here the sanctity of life is the idea that all life is sacred or special and it comes from God. For Christians, life is a gift and God has a divine plan for each and every one of us. So, sanctity of life really important. Obviously, when we go on to think about other things, that we think quality of life as well. And I know that you will have thought about that, or will be thinking about that when we go on to look at abortion and euthanasia a little bit later. So, what I'd like you now to do is to access the question sheet below in the description, and I'd like you to complete those answers in full sentences. So, pause me now while you get that task done, access the information sheet, and answer those in full sentences. Okay, so we'd understand what Christians believe about the origins and sanctity of life. And we said it good if we could state what the origin and sanctity of life is or means. And hopefully now you've got that in your book. And we're now going to start thinking a little bit more. And we thought a little bit about what Christians believe about those things through that worksheet. So we need to drill into sanctity of life a little bit more. Now, there is a grid there. I suggest you use about 16 minutes for this, but obviously you can do it in the speed that you need to. There's also an information map in that directory, so everything you need is there. So download that and start getting those sheets completed, extracting the information from the information table and then putting it into that grid there as well. I'm sure that will make sense. So pause me now, work it through, and let's get some information about sanctity of life written down. Brilliant. Okay, so the CCC, the Catholic Catechism, says this: human life must be respected and protected absolutely from the moment of conception. So life begins for a human at the point of conception, when the sperm and the egg meet. And that's the teaching of the Catholic Church. You need to know that. So please make a note of that and commit that to your memory. See, Catholics believe that sanctity of life is human for the following three reasons: that the origin, it says that life is a gift from God. Dignity, humans are made in imago Dei, have immortal souls. And destiny, the goal of this life is to share eternal joy with God to heaven. And therefore, they are really important factors that affect sanctity of life, but also the topic of abortion, which we're going to go on to think about. So please make sure you've got that down in your notes, and then you're going to come back to me. Okay, so Catholics believe that God created every human to be unique. Psalm 139 describes an omnibenevolent God, an all-loving God. You can see that there in red. And in his life, Jesus demonstrated love for all people, especially the poor and the weak and the sick. So Jesus looked after people. So what I'd like you to do is choose one of the quotes in those boxes below. I'd like you to shrink it down and explain what it shows about sanctity of life. So choose one of the quotes that is underneath, shrink it down, and explain what it shows about sanctity of life. Do that now, pause me, and then come back to me. Okay, so coming into land then, we've got a couple more tasks, but we are very much getting there now. What I'd like you to do is a C-style question, so it's 8 marks, 8 marks, 8 minutes. You need 2 paragraphs, okay? So you need 2 different Christian attitudes to the sanctity of life. Now you might say, oh, Mr. Shelton, we've only done Catholicism. Well, Church of England, very similar as well, okay? So you're going to start with saying, Catholics would say that the sanctity of life is important because it's made in God's image, and then explain that, use a quote, one of the God shifts tall items quotes that I've mentioned before for you. And then you're going to do a paragraph using a quote which is explained. Then you're going to do a paragraph that some Church of England Christians also think that the sanctity of life is important because don't forget, they're all part of the same umbrella. So Roman Catholics, Church of England, they believe almost identical things when it comes to this topic. So just choose a second point from your notes and label that as Church of England. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, please send an email to your teacher and we'll try and explain that a little bit better for you. Okay, so let's do that now. You've got 8 minutes to get that done and then come back to me. Okay, so let's get that marked. So first off, you need to look for key terms or quotes. If you don't have any key terms in there, you can't be scoring above 2 marks out of 8. It says that at the bottom paragraph of each of those things. Then you need to be looking for quotes. If you don't have quotes, you can't score above a 5 or a 6. And if you haven't explained those quotes, you certainly can't be getting a 7 or an 8. So ideally, let's be hoping for that 5 to 6 mark, but have a look over that marking grid, come up yourself with an even better if, and then come back to me. Okay, so this lesson we said it would be good if we could state what the origin and sanctity of life is, and we could explain what Christians believe about the origins and sanctity of life. And hopefully now we've started to link some of that to an exam style question as well. So we're going to end with this, okay? So I'm just going to move there. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to have a look at those cards behind me, and using that information, I'd like you to put them into a ranking order. So list them in order of people you would save if there was an issue, people you might save if there was an issue, and people you definitely wouldn't save if there was an issue, and explain why. So I'd like you to do that now, and I'm going to leave it there today. So thanks very much for your time. Take care of yourself, stay safe, wash your hands, God bless you, and remember, please get everything sent through to your teachers, because we'd love to get it marked and to see what you've said. Cheers. Bye.